Earth had no voice. The grand hall of the Galactic Senate was filled with noise, flashing lights, and alien voices. Representatives from 100 different species were seated around a shining silver ring. They spoke in many languages, but their words carried the same tone: disapproval. Floating in the middle of the room was the central vote orb. It pulsed with soft blue light, waiting for the final decision. Earth's seat was empty. No flag. No voice. No vote. But a man stood alone in the back of the hall. His black coat was long. His face was calm, but his eyes were hard. He said nothing, just listened. His name was Ron Malik. He was Earth's last ambassador, and he was not welcome. Tall insect-like senator from the Kravix race slammed a claw against his podium. The humans are too dangerous. They breed like viruses, consume too fast, fight too often. Let us end this discussion now. A chorus of grunts, clicks, and hisses followed. All agreed. One by one, the senators raised their hands, or claws, or tendrils, and the orb flashed each time against Earth, against Earth, against Earth. No one spoke for the humans, no one asked why. Earth had been silent for the last 10 years. No one remembered how Earth helped save the Tharkson moons during the plague storm, or how they sent water to burn worlds, or how they buried their dead beside alien soldiers. They only remembered Earth's wars, Earth's speed, Earth's fire. When the last vote was cast, the orb turned red. The speaker, a pale being with 10 eyes, announced, "The motion is passed. Earth is now removed from all trade, all travel, and all interstellar support. They are no longer recognized as a member of the Senate." Silence, then cheers. Some clapped, others hissed in joy. And in the back of the room, Ron Malik smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the kind of smile a soldier makes when the enemy finally takes the first shot. He turned and walked out without a word. Outside, the stars above the Senate world of Arvaxes shined like diamonds. Ron stepped onto a small shuttle waiting for him. The pilot, a young woman with steel eyes, looked at him. "They voted?" He nodded. "They voted against Earth," he said. The woman gripped the controls tighter. "What now?" Ron looked out at the stars again. "There's a saying we have on Earth," he said slowly. "When the world turns its back on you, you don't cry. You build." The pilot raised an eyebrow. "Build what?" Ron's eyes darkened. "A memory." Back in the Senate hall, one senator noticed something odd. The orb, still glowing red, suddenly flickered. Just for a moment. The air grew cold. A small human coin sat on the empty desk where Earth's flag once stood. No one saw who left it. No one dared touch it. On the coin was a single word, written in Earth's oldest language. Remember, on a far-off moon, a mining station operated under Senate control. Mostly automated. Few guards. No one expected trouble. But something dark moved in the sky that night. Something silent. Fast. It had no signal. No ID. No name. Only a black, smooth, shape like a shark from Earth's deep oceans. And when it arrived, the alarms didn't even sound. Back on Earth, far from the stars and the Senate halls, deep underground in an old mountain bunker, hundreds of people worked in silence. Engineers, soldiers, scientists, refugees. They all had one thing in common. They remembered the vote, and they were building something. Big Ron Malik stood at the heart of it all. He stared at a massive screen filled with red dots, Senate targets. He turned to his team. "They think we're broken," he said. "They think we're alone." He smiled again. "Let's show them how wrong they are." The mining station on Kavros 9 was peaceful. It floated over the blue and gold planet like a sleeping giant. Deep inside, machines dug through rock, pulling out rare ores. The station had no weapons, no soldiers, only 10 guards and over 200 workers, mostly alien laborers from Senate worlds. They felt safe. After all, who would attack a Senate-owned mine? The workers did not know that 3 days ago the Senate voted Earth out of the galaxy. They did not know the last human ambassador had left without a word. They did not know they were now targets. At 0317 local time, the stars blinked. A camera on the station's west tower caught it, a small shadow moving fast across the stars. No sound, no warning, no signal, just a blur in the sky. Security Chief Varn, a thick-scaled beast with glowing yellow eyes, frowned at his monitor. Did that just... The screen turned black. Then, the lights in the station went out. Inside the tunnels, workers stopped. Machines slowed to silence. The lights flickered, then stayed off. An old Drizkan worker whispered, "Solar flare?" "No," said another, voice shaking. "Solar flares don't jam life support." The air got colder, thicker, heavy. Then, silence. Above the station, it floated, a black warship, long, sharp, and nearly invisible against space. No markings, no signal, no name, but those who saw it would never forget its shape, sleek like a blade, with wings curled inward, like it was folding in anger. The ship hovered for 3 full minutes, then it opened fire. Red energy bolts tore through the station, like paper, no warnings, no voice, no demand for surrender. In 20 seconds, the mining station was gone. Only burning pieces drifted through space. Among the debris, a message pod spun slowly, untouched by the fire. Inside, it was a single image, a Senate document showing the vote against Earth, and beneath it, a photo of the destroyed station. One word was written in blood-red letters across the top: recall. The Senate received the message hours later. Inside the hall, panic broke out. "Is this an Earth attack?" someone shouted. "They had no fleet," another argued. "We destroyed their last battleship 12 years ago." No human could do this. Ron Malik's name came up, but no one could find him. In a dark room deep beneath Earth's surface, Malik stood before a holographic map. Beside him, a tall human engineer stared at the blinking red dot where Kavros 9 used to be. "The message was delivered," she said softly. Malik nodded. "Good. The Senate speaks in votes, we speak in fire." The engineer looked worried. "They'll strike back." Malik didn't blink. "Let them." He turned to the next target on the map. "Begin Ghost Operation 2. Aboard the black warship, the human crew moved like ghosts, silent, focused, sharp. Some were soldiers, others were survivors of lost colonies. A few were once diplomats. Now they were something else. They were Earth's memory, and memories do not forgive. Back on our Vaxes, the Senate sent out emergency messages. Defense satellites were activated, ships were scrambled, but no one knew what to defend against. No enemy had been declared, no war had been announced, only a silent ship. And the feeling that something terrible had awakened. Somewhere in deep space, a small girl sat on a ruined human colony, staring at the sky. Her parents were lost in the first Senate raids 5 years ago. Now, she watched the stars and whispered, "They're coming back, aren't they?" Her guardian, an old soldier with metal arms, nodded slowly. "Yes, and this time they won't ask for help." The planet Delvatar 5 spun gently beneath its twin suns. Its sky was always golden. Children played in floating gardens. Traders filled the open sky markets. People laughed, bought spices, and flew hover kites through glowing clouds. But that day, the sun dimmed, not from clouds. Not from nightfall, from shadows. High above the planet, a single black warship hovered in silence. It did not fire, it did not speak, it only watched. And then, the sky itself began to change. A beam of red light shot out from the warship, cutting across the sky like a knife. People looked up, pointing. The light stayed. Lines began forming. Letters, words, burning into the sky. Glowing words written in the fire of the stars. "You voted to starve us. We vote back." Gasps spread across the crowd. Screams followed. Children cried. Traders ran. Guards called for air patrols. The warship still did not move, still did not fire. It simply hovered above the message, letting the words burn into memory. And after 2 full minutes, it vanished. No sound, no flash. It was just gone. Inside the Galactic Senate, the room exploded with chaos. 1,000 voices at once. Accusations, denials, panic. One senator slammed the table. That message was visible from 5 cities. Our citizens are terrified. Another shouted, it's psychological warfare. A third hissed, it's humans. Who else uses skywriting like it's art? No, this is impossible. Earth had nothing. Their fleet was dust. But deep inside, most of them already knew the truth. The humans never forgot. They never forgave. They were not dust. They were waiting. Ron Malik watched from a hidden chamber on Earth's moon base. The image of Delvatar's sky message glowed across his screen. He didn't speak. Beside him, an old woman, once a senator who defended Earth, before she was removed, looked at him with wide eyes. You're going to break the galaxy, she said. Ron turned to her, quiet. No, he said. I'm going to remind it. In the outer zone of Sector 18, a merchant convoy passed near a dead zone. They were carrying fuel cells and medicine. A child aboard saw something move outside. Papa, she said softly, is that a whale? The father looked out the window and froze. That was no whale. It was long, black, silent, and following them. 10 hours later, the convoy was found drifting, untouched. No signs of violence, no signs of damage, except for one thing. On the side of the lead ship, someone had carved a symbol into the hull, an ancient human torch. Under it, never again silent. The message spread fast, across colonies, across star stations. People began whispering, the ghost fleet, the skyburners, the fireborn, names born from fear and awe. For the first time in history, galactic citizens were more afraid of one small planet than of all the others combined. On the jungle planet Verxil, a historian spoke to her students. Children, she said, her voice shaking, many races here have ruled. The Xanthar, the Kravux, even the Isari. She paused. But the humans, they don't want to rule. They want to be left alone. Until you don't. Somewhere in deep space, a new human ship was born from the dark. Silent, invisible, waiting. The crew inside were not soldiers by name, but they were all angry. They were all survivors, and they all watched the stars. One muttered under his breath, next system, next message, let them choke on it. And back on Earth, deep beneath what was once New Geneva, a new map glowed red. It had names, coordinates, Senate cities, fuel ports, war factories, and above all, one word, remember. The Galactic Senate had a name for him now. The man with no rank, no medals, no uniform, no planet to command, but across a dozen systems that name meant one thing. Fear. In a shadowed part of the galaxy, a Senate weapons convoy traveled through empty space, 8 ships strong, heavy escort, shielded routes. Still, they were nervous, ever. Since the Cavro station was destroyed, even Senate generals looked over their shoulders. Captain Thren of the lead ship was a proud Axtari warrior. 4 arms, a long scar across one eye. He had fought in 5 battles and never lost a ship. Until tonight. It began with silence, no warning sirens, no engine hum, just stillness. The ship's lights dimmed, the control panels went dark. Then, one by one, the escort ships vanished from radar. Captain Thren shouted, "Who's attacking us? Report!" The crew scrambled. Nothing, no signal. No ship appeared on scans. Then came a sound. Not an explosion, not a voice, a knock. A soft, slow knock. on the inside of the command door. Thren drew his blaster. "Open it." The door slid open with a hiss. No one stood there. Only a human coin lay on the floor. One side showed Earth's ancient flag. The other side was freshly engraved. "We remember your vote." Thren never saw the shadow that moved behind him. Hours later, the convoy's ships were found floating, engines cold. Every crew member was unconscious but alive. No damage to the ships. No stolen cargo. Only a message carved into each command chair. "This time we spared you. Next time we won't." Inside the Senate's war chamber, the panic grew louder. They didn't even fire a shot. 10 billion credits of escort ships useless. They're not here for war. This is something else. An elder senator whispered, "They're not fighting like soldiers. They're hunting like ghosts." Meanwhile, on a small, nameless moon, Ron Malik stood beside a campfire. He wore no armor, no badges, only a long black coat and old combat boots covered in red Martian dust. He looked up at the stars. Behind him, young fighters trained in silence, humans and aliens alike, refugees, outcasts, survivors of Earth-friendly colonies. They didn't follow Ron because he gave orders. They followed him because he had nothing left to lose. A tall woman approached. She was part Tharanx, with silver eyes and blue skin. "We heard your name today," she said. "The Senate is offering a reward." "How much?" he asked, not turning. 10 million credits, he smiled faintly. "That's cheap," she nodded. "They're afraid." He finally turned, and his eyes were hard like stone. "Good. They should be." Aboard the stealth ship Gravedust, Malik's core team met in the war room. Screens showed Senate routes, defense positions, and the locations of military research labs. Malik stood at the head of the table. "They think I'm a ghost, a rebel, an angry human with a grudge." He paused, then spoke slowly. "They're wrong. I'm not angry. I'm awake." They silenced Earth's voice, but they forgot we still have hands. He pointed to a lab on the map. "This one developed the weapon that poisoned the Mars colony 5 years ago. 5,000 dead." A young soldier beside him asked, "We destroy it?" Malik shook his head. "No. We broadcast it. Let the galaxy see what the Senate funded. Let the stars hear the screams they covered up." Hours later, in 6 different systems, old security footage played in secret feeds. Unedited. Raw. The world saw what the Senate had done, and the name Ron Malik became more than fear. It became a signal. A call. Across the stars, people began drawing. Earth's torch symbol on walls, on ships, even on skin. They didn't all know why. They just felt it. Something was changing. Back on Arvaxis, the Senate met in emergency again. "We must stop him," one senator growled. "He's spreading rebellion." "He's just one man," another shouted. "No," said a quiet voice. The eldest senator of the Isari, blind but wise. He's what they made him. The vote was the bullet. He is the return fire. On a desert world, an old alien grandmother gave her grandson a storybook. She opened the cover and whispered, "This story is about the man who had no home and no army, but who made kings tremble." The boy asked, "Is it true?" She smiled. "It's just beginning." The Senate had tried silence. Then they tried fear. Now they chose blood. 5 assassins were chosen, not ordinary killers. These were ghosts, shadows, trained in every known species method of silent death. They had killed warlords, princes, even a god king. None had ever failed. Their mission was simple: find and kill Rayan Malik. The trail led to a shattered world in the Black Zone, a place with no name, only scars. Ruins from an old human colony burned by the Senate 10 years ago. Here, the assassins landed at midnight. No heat signatures, no movement. No guards, just dust and echoes. The leader, a tall figure wrapped in night-black armor, tapped his comm. No sign of defense. Target may be hiding in lower levels. They entered. Inside the ruins, the air was cold and dry. Long halls, metal bones, of old shelters, broken screens still blinking faintly. They split up, silent and sharp. Each assassin moved like a shadow. No noise, no light, no emotion, but the shadows were watching back. The first assassin reached a dark hallway. A whisper passed behind him. He turned, but saw only a coin on the floor. He bent to pick it up. The coin was warm. It read, "You hunted us. Now we hunt back." That was the last thing he read. A blade slid from the darkness. No scream, no sound, just silence, and one less shadow. Elsewhere, the second assassin found a data core. She plugged in, hoping to trace Malik's last communication. Instead, the screen flashed a message like, "Did you vote too?" The room sealed. Gas hissed. She never had time to answer. The third and fourth assassins were skilled. They moved as a pair. They found what looked like a war room, empty, quiet, lit by a single flickering light. They saw a map on the wall. Targets. Routes. Senate locations. Then they saw it. A hologram flickered to life. Ron Malik's face. Not live. Recorded. He looked into the camera, calm and steady. "You came looking for me," the recording said. "But I've already been inside your homes." The two assassins turned just in time to see the wall shift. Hidden turrets emerged. The room became red. The last assassin, the leader, survived the longest. He reached the central chamber. There, sitting in a simple chair, was Ron Malik. Alive. Calm. Waiting. No weapons. The assassin raised his blade. "Any last words?" Ron tilted his head. "You're late." Suddenly the walls around them lit up. Dozens of red dots appeared. Sniper targets locked from hidden positions. Ron stood. "You thought I was alone." He stepped forward. "I'm never alone." The assassin blinked, then dropped his blade. He didn't die. Ron let him leave with a message burned into his mind. Hours later, the assassin stood before the Senate, shaking. "They were waiting," he said. He knew everything. We were the prey. The senators were silent. For the first time, even the loudest voices had nothing to say. On a hidden moon, Ron Malik looked out over a sea of faces. Young, old, alien, human. They weren't an army. They were something stronger. A cause. He raised his voice. The Senate sent killers. Not diplomats, not peace, killers. They thought they'd end me. He looked around. But I'm not an idea you can kill. I'm the memory of every colony they burned. I'm the voice of every child they silenced. I'm the answer to their vote. They cheered. And in that moment, far above, another Senate communications relay exploded in fire. On the side of the destroyed tower, glowing red across space. Earth remembers. We vote back. The Senate grew desperate. They began censoring news, blocking signals, arresting protesters. But it was too late. The fire had spread. Even some Senate worlds began painting the Earth torch symbol on their buildings. Not as a threat, as hope. Back in a lonely prison cell, the assassin who saw Malik still couldn't sleep. He stared at the message Malik gave him, etched into his blade before returning it. They made you a weapon. You can still be a man. And somewhere in deep space, the Ghost Fleet prepared again. Quiet, cold, focused. They didn't fly for medals, they flew for memory. For years, the galaxy thought Earth was finished. Their cities had been bombed. Their colonies taken. Their voice silenced in the Senate. But Earth had never stopped breathing. It had simply stopped speaking. And now, it stood. On the dark side of Jupiter's smallest moon, a massive wall of steel moved beneath the ice. Not one ship. A fleet. Rows and rows of black, silent warships, buried deep, hidden for years, built, in silence by hands that never gave up. engines powered by star cores, armor grown from living alloys, weapons that didn't exist in Senate records, a symbol burned on every hull. We remember. In a control room beneath the Arctic, Ron Malik stood beside an old general. The general's voice cracked. They thought we were dead. Ron's eyes were cold. We were busy. On the screen, the fleet began to rise, breaking through the ice, through darkness, through history itself. Earth was not just fighting back. It was returning. Meanwhile, in the Senate chambers on Arvaxis, panic reached its highest point. They've activated an entire war fleet. Impossible. Where did they even build it? They had no resources. Wrong. A whisper cut through the room. All heads turned. An old senator, once a friend to humans, stood with trembling hands. They had the only resource that ever mattered, she said softly. Reason. The Senate began sending messages, begging for peace. They sent envoys, drones, apologies. But Earth received none of them, not because they were ignored, because they were intercepted. The Ghost Fleet made sure no false peace would delay justice. Across the stars, the flame spread. On mining moons, workers painted torches on walls. On Senate ships, low-ranking soldiers began sharing Earth's message. Not revenge, memory. Not destruction, justice. Not war, balance. The Earth fleet didn't attack planets. They didn't target civilians. They went for systems, data centers, fuel routes, communication relays. Each hit was perfect, clean, cold. The message was clear. You erased us from the Senate. We erased you from the map. In deep space, a Senate battlecruiser waited to ambush. Instead, it was surrounded in 6 seconds, not by fire, by silence. Dozens of human ships locked it in place, froze its systems, disabled its weapons, without firing once. Then, a voice filled every speaker. Ron Malik, go home. Tell them Earth is not angry. A pause. Earth is awake. The cruiser was left drifting, untouched, embarrassed. They never tried again. Back on Earth, people gathered in cities that had once been rubble. Fires no longer burned. Now lights danced in the sky. Ships rising, returning. Families wept as long-lost children came back from exile. Old soldiers stood straight again. For the first time in a generation, Earth looked up, not in fear, in power, in unity. In one small town, a child looked to the stars and asked her grandfather, "Are we safe now?" The old man smiled, tears in his eyes. "No," he said gently. "We are strong now." In hidden bunkers, across Senate space, high officials whispered of surrender. Some even resigned, ashamed, but others still clung to control. "Send a new vote," one shouted. "We must reinstate Earth, offer them power, buy their silence." But no one voted, not out of fear, out of shame. On Earth's moon, inside the central war room, Ron Malik watched as the last Senate fleet retreated from the border. He stood alone at the observation deck, looking down at the blue planet that had given him everything, and taken everything. He whispered, "They thought we would burn." Behind him, a voice replied, "We did." It was the old woman with silver eyes, but we rose, and in the stars the name Earth became something new. Not a threat, not a victim, not a ghost. A force, something steady, something watching, something earned. And on the edge of known space, where no Senate ship dared go, a signal pulsed, once every hour from a black ship, a message not in anger but in memory. "You forgot us, but we didn't forget you." The Senate hall had never been so quiet. No arguments, no shouts, just fear. Every seat was filled. Leaders from 100 worlds sat stiff in silence. They wore their finest robes, their oldest medals, their proudest colors. But their eyes were all the same, terrified. A vote had been called. Emergency Motion 881Z. To reinstate Earth as a full Senate member, with supreme authority to command and judge all systems involved in the previous sanctions. In simpler words, let Earth rule us before they crush us. No one spoke. Not even the Kravuks who once screamed for Earth's exile. Not even the Isari who called humans primitive fire children. The silence was not respect. It was survival. Suddenly, the chamber lights flickered. A low hum shook the floor. And then, a shadow fell over the ceiling glass. Everyone looked up. A ship blocked the sun. Black. Sharp. Silent. The ghost fleet had arrived, above Arvaxis itself. A door opened at the far end of the hall. Boots echoed on polished stone. One man walked in. Alone, no guards, no banners, no weapons, Ron Malik. His black coat dragged behind him like a storm cloud. Some senators tried to stand, some bowed. Most stayed frozen. He walked to the center of the circle and looked up at the speaker's podium. No one moved. So he spoke. "You voted," he said. His voice was calm. Too calm. "You voted to starve our children, to silence our voice, to erase our history." He looked around the room, each pair of alien eyes meeting his cold, steady gaze. "You thought Earth was weak because we didn't strike back, because we waited, because we chose mercy." He took a single step forward. But mercy is not silence. Ron reached into his coat and placed something on the center table, a simple round stone. Red, burned. Some recognized it. It was a chunk of Earth's Mars colony, destroyed after the Senate's trade cutoffs led to famine. He pointed at it. "This is the cost of your vote." An insectoid senator finally found courage. We didn't know it would go that far." Ron turned his head slowly. "You didn't care." The room was still. Then, the vote orb floated into place. It pulsed softly, waiting. One by one, the senators placed their hands, claws, or tendrils upon it. The lights flashed. Green. Green, green. Every vote, yes, the orb turned white. The chamber lights rose. A voice announced, "By unanimous decision, Earth is reinstated and elevated." No cheers, no claps, only breaths released in relief. It was done, or so they thought. Ron Malik did not smile. He stepped forward and spoke, once more. "This vote means nothing." Gasps followed. The orb blinked in confusion. He continued, "You cannot vote away your sins. You cannot erase fire with ink." He looked at the room like a teacher addressing slow children. "You fear what Earth became, but it was always inside us." A senator stood, panicked. "Then what do you want?" Rayon turned away, slowly walking back toward the exit. "I don't want your seat. I don't want your flags. I don't want your broken peace." He paused, at the door. "I want your memory." He looked back one last time. "I want every child on every planet to know what happens when you try to bury the wrong people." Then he left. Just like that. No threat, no promise. Just a man, walking away from power. Above Arvaxis, the ghost fleet turned. They didn't fire. They didn't stay. They vanished. Weeks passed. Earth did not invade. It did not rule. It simply watched. And in that silence, the galaxy changed. Statues of Earth heroes were built on alien worlds. Senate schools rewrote their history books. Children learned about mercy and memory. And the vote, the last vote, was never forgotten. Not because of what it gave Earth, but because of what Earth refused. In one small village on the Senate planet, Kerala, a young alien girl stood beside her teacher. "Why didn't the humans take over when they had the chance?" she asked. The teacher smiled and replied, "Because power wasn't the point. Dignity was." Back on Earth, Ron Malik walked alone through the forests of old Canada. No guards, no fanfare, just wind in the trees and sunlight on his face. He stopped, beside a quiet lake, and looked up. A single ghost fleet ship soared past, silent and smooth. He nodded, then whispered, "Let them remember."